Hey guys, so today I have a very special video to show you guys. I've been working on this very hard, me and a few other writers, to put together this video to show you what it's actually like being a writer, and the fact that writing is actually a real job, that we put a lot of work and effort into this. We put a lot of long hours into this, and that it's more than just we sit down at a computer and we write for a little bit, or that we stay at home all the time, or that there's no work behind it, because there is. And I want this video to show you that writing is a real job. And so today you're going to be hearing from me. We've been working on this for the past couple months. You're going to be hearing from a few author friends of mine: Ariel Payments, Alicia Scarborough, and Alan Stedham. And you're going to be hearing from them personally about their writing processes and kind of what they do and what a day in their life is like. And the more videos that happen, the more in depth we're going to get. And I hope that you really enjoy this video. Please watch it to the end. And I just hope that this video educates you about some of the stereotypes that are said about writers, and some of the ways that writing is actually a real job. And I want you guys to really see the effort and the work that goes into this, and a lot of different things that you probably don't know about writing, or the things that we do as writers. So thank you, and I hope that you really enjoy watching.
Hi, this is Alan Stedham, author of Mindfire and Jordan's World, and I want to tell you a little bit about my average writing day. So I usually get up early, between 4 and 5 in the morning, and I have prayer with the Lord. After that, I study the Bible for a little bit, and then I start on my writing. And at that point, I'm in the right channel, I'm in the right spirit, and I can, get about anywhere from 45 minutes to maybe up to 2 hours done before I have to go to work. And then throughout the day, I'll look for opportunities to do some social media marketing, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And when I'm out and about, I tell people about the books and strike up conversations, or it sometimes comes up on its own. And I just keep looking for those opportunities. And to me, it's just because I'm in my first year of being a published author, and so it takes time to get the word out about you. It takes time to get a presence, and for people to know who you are. So it's a constant learning process. I created a website, alanstedham.com, and that helps, and I've got links to my books there. I created some book trailers. Well, not personally, I hired a professional to do it, and he's done a great job, and I just keep working on it.
Okay, so Joanna has asked me to go ahead and tell you how hard authors really work. As for me, my setup for writing is rather different, or I think it's different from most authors, because I'm a little bit of a chaotic mess. Number one thing that I always have when I'm writing is this particular book by Angela Ackerman and Becca Pugsley, I think. The Emotion Thesaurus, A Writer's Guide to Character Expressions. This is a really great tool for me to use, because then it allows me to make my characters come to life. The other thing that I use to write is to have a handy dandy outline, as you can see here, but also I write most of my stories in Notepad. I don't do it in Word, I don't do it in Scrivener, I don't do it in any other fancy program, as you would say, because I don't need the distraction of the grammar and the spelling. I just need to focus on getting it written. So if I'm on a deadline and I don't need to be distracted, then I definitely do it in Notepad. When I get ready and when I'm setting up a story, that's entirely different. But let me show you another tool that I always have on hand, and that's thesaurus.com. Thesaurus allows me to find other words that I need to use when I feel like that I've been overusing a specific word. I go about to do my outlines and so forth. I usually have to start off with Usually start with the sticky note wall. Let me show you what that looks like. The Writer's Process album, and pretty much you can see in here that I have a wall full of sticky notes, and then I also have pieces of paper with, like, you know, my brainstorming. Whenever I brainstorm, I just get out pieces of paper and I write down what's supposed to happen for that scene. As you can see right there and right there, and right here in this screen right here, picture, you can see that that's my finished manuscript for Potion of the Hound. It originally was called Who Bumbled the Brew. This is one of the characters, Mr. Higgins. I like to draw my characters, but there's quite a bit of prep, like, you know, coming up with who's going to be in there, what's going to happen, what are the milestones, and then after I do my little brainstorm here with the post notes, then I go to my Google Docs, and then I start off with, like, you know, an even quarter template. This particular template is for about 16 chapter book, but I have bigger ones for like 40 chapter. I think I have one. Click Book 2 is going to be about 40 chapters. So as you can see, all of these are filled in as to what happens each chapter, or yeah, that's what I want to happen each chapter. And then, you know, I put in my notes, and then, you know, all of my stories always have a setup, inciting incident, the first slap, second slap, and the climax to the end. And it gets really cool, you know, because when you're set up this way, it makes it easier. But to tell you the truth, the proof of the pudding is actually writing the story. So those are usually my outlines. That's pretty much my writing process. I just, you know, plunk my butt down after I get my brainstorming done, and writing out what I want to happen in each scene, and then I just get it done. So
hi everyone, my name is Ariel Pavement. I'm just going to be talking a little bit about what I do on a regular basis as an author and a writer. Writing is a lot of work. It isn't something that you just do whenever you feel like it and you sit around the house 24/7 just kind of doing things when you feel like it. It's something that you have to make a concerted effort out of, especially if you are looking to be an author, not just a writer. Let's just take a look at, to start off with, for me, what I use to keep myself organized, because since I do have two other part-time jobs, one teaching English to homeschooled kids online through the email, and the other currently as a server at Olive Garden, I do not have the time to not be organized, especially with everything that I have to do. So what you see here on the screen now is my list for my blog. So as an author, there are a lot of different things that go into building your platform and really being successful beyond just putting books out there. Now, if you have a traditional publisher, some of the advertising type stuff is done for you in some cases. I do not have a traditional publisher in that sense. I have worked with a traditional publisher for an anthology, but aside from that, all of my stuff has been self-published, and that is a ton of work. And it's something where it really doesn't work out for you well to just put books out and hope that something happens. So for me, my approach to building my platform has been to go through multiple different avenues, but my main one has been my blog. So this spreadsheet is what I use to keep everything organized for my blog. It's all the topics that I'm going to go through, where I add ideas that maybe readers have sent me or that people have suggested, and it helps me to know what I've done, what I haven't done, and what I am currently working on. So it just helps to keep me organized, so I'm not just thinking I have stuff that I don't for the blog. With the blog in mind, this is the homepage for my blog. As you can see here, it just talks a little bit about what it is. And so let me go ahead and give you a behind the scenes view of this. So this is the behind the scenes view on my blog. This is where I go to look and see how many followers do I have, how many views have I had, visitors to the site, all that kind of stuff. But it's also where I go to keep track of everything that I'm working on. So as I said earlier, I don't really have the time to not be organized. I don't do this for my full-time job. I have other jobs, so I really can't just decide I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a blog post today because I need it in an hour. I can't do that, so I have to schedule everything. So along with that spreadsheet, I also use scheduled posts for the weeks to help keep me organized. So this is everything that I have right now. Usually I try to have about 2 or 3 weeks in advance. You can see I'm a little bit behind this week. Things have been a little bit crazy for me. But that's where these two kind of connect together, and I use this to keep me organized for the blog. But obviously, the main goal here as an author is not just to have the blog up and running, but also to be putting out consistent content for the readers. So another part of my job as an author is to keep track of everything that I am going to have out and when. So I also do that on a spreadsheet. If you haven't been able to tell, I really like Excel. I was an accounting student, so I'm most comfortable with this. But that aside, this is where I keep track of everything that I'm currently working on and when I'm going to have it done, along with notes if I just need to remind myself for upcoming projects what they're going to be about. So I just keep track of everything on here. As you can see, I have things pretty much laid out all the way out into 2022 for tentative dates for releasing. So is it kind of thankless work at the beginning? Yes, but hopefully the end goal in sight helps with that some. At least it does for me, knowing that there are readers out there who are going to find my work and enjoy it. And so maybe right now it's not really going a lot of places, but just knowing that people are gaining from it and that people are enjoying the work, even if right now that audience is small, is really what keeps me going. I end up doing a lot of work on multiple different platforms to kind of engage with my readers and to try to funnel people into the blog so that people are getting the most recent content and hopefully interacting with me more. So one of the main places that I use is Wattpad. I usually, for me at least, I post all of my stuff up on here while it's in the rough draft stage. So if you see stuff on here and you're looking at my work, it is usually not edited. But I do this because it allows me to really test reader engagement and see how people are liking it, and just to get a better understanding of whether or not it's working. If it isn't, then I usually try to use these sites as a way to gauge why it isn't and what I can do to kind of make it better. The other place that I use in conjunction with this is Inkit. I've kind of had mixed results with these. Some things do better on Inkit than they do on Wattpad, and vice versa. I'm not really sure why. I guess different reader groups, I suppose, on the two different platforms. But that's not necessarily bad because it does give me a much broader idea of where things are at and what's working and what's not. But once I have kind of gauged that reader engagement and stuff, usually I will take stuff off of these platforms when I'm ready to publish, and I will put them under very rigorous editing, which is one of those aspects of self-publishing that can be really difficult. But more on that in a minute. So I take stuff down off of here when I'm ready to put it onto Amazon or Kobo, and the reason that I do that is because obviously I want people to come buy my stuff, not just read it for free. So usually I'll leave up a little bit of it, like maybe a chapter or two, just to give new readers an idea of what they're getting into, because, you know, if you were looking at my book in an actual bookstore, you would be able to thumb through the pages, look and see if it looks like something interesting, and really kind of just spend a little bit of time getting to know me and my writing style. Unfortunately, it's not as easy to do that with Amazon paperback or Kindle, so I like to leave something up for readers so that they're not going into things blind. So let's talk a little bit then about the work that goes into the publishing side of things once I've moved from this to the actual publication stage. On the publishing side of things, for me, I have done freelancing work as an editor, so I don't really employ somebody to do the editing for me. I know that there are a lot of self-published authors who do because they just can't edit their own work, and that's fine. It takes a very different mindset to write a book than it does to edit the book, and knowing how to get into those mindsets and what it really requires of you is not something that everyone knows or is cut out for, and that's fine. But for me, since I do have both skill sets, I generally just edit my own work. I do try to have people who are willing to listen to me read it out loud so that I can double check that I caught everything, and I do have people who will beta read for me sometimes, but I do the main editing. So that does save me a little bit of money, but definitely not time. It takes a lot of effort and work to edit, especially a full-length novel. So needless to say, for me, the publication process is pretty rigorous and time-consuming. I will say I don't do my own book covers. I know there are some authors who do. I tried for a little bit. It didn't work out the best for me. It didn't really, the kind of covers that I needed for what I was doing just were not things that I personally was capable of putting out. So I had somebody else do those, which meant a little bit less time for me put into the self-publishing process. But it definitely is a lot of work, because the thing is, once you've got it published and once you've got it edited and laid out and everything, you have to make sure you've cleaned up the manuscript yourself. You have to make sure that you've got it fit to the right dimensions and everything for the layouts for Kindle versus paperback. And if you're publishing on sites other than just Amazon, which I have done, then there are different sizing requirements for covers and for trim sizes and everything. Just a lot of different technical stuff that goes into getting it onto the site and live, especially if you want it to look professional. But more than that, it's not just the platforms with trying to get the work out there and gauge reader response. It's not just the fact that I have to constantly be writing and creating new content to publish. It's that really you have to figure out how to convert all of that into actual sales, and that's the part where it gets really difficult, because it's not easy necessarily to pull in readers to your work, but it's certainly not as difficult as getting people to buy the book is, because that's actual money and commitment. I can get people to come read it on Wattpad or Inkit, but moving them from just being a Facebook fan or a follower on one of these sites to actually buying the book is a lot more difficult. A lot of times my audience on these sites, at least for Wattpad and Inkit, are younger, teens and young adults who don't necessarily have a lot of money to spend either. That's really where my blog has come into play, where it's trying to draw in those readers that might not be on sites like Wattpad or Inkit, readers who actually might be able to buy the book. It isn't easy. It is extremely difficult, and you're going to have to be self-motivated. You're going to have to keep going even when you just want to give up and say forget it, because you can't see where the end of the tunnel is. And I'm not saying that you can't take time for you or have a break, whatever you need to do, but if you really want to make it work, it's going to be difficult and it's going to be hard. But that doesn't mean you should give up. Just because there's a possibility of failure doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Do what you need to do to make the dream a reality. And don't listen to the people who say that you need to get a real job or this isn't going to work for you, this isn't going to happen, because honestly, there's so many different authors who were told that and are now extremely successful. Again, not an easy path, but one that you can definitely make. So hopefully you guys are able to take something away from that, and this has been helpful to you guys. Thank you for sticking with me for this time.
So basically, obviously, the main part that you start off with is writing itself. Now, every writer has their own system and their own way of doing things. I have to stay organized with my folders. As you can see, I have a lot of them here. All of my novels go in here into the stories folder. I have to divide them in terms of like the different books and the different series that I'm writing, because I write a lot of different content. And now some writers will only focus on one book at a time, and usually that'll take them a year or more. I write very quickly, typically, so I have to keep everything organized. As you can see, I have these are all different books. For me personally, writing is a passion of mine, and that's also a reason why, because people would ask you like, well, if it doesn't pay very well, if you go through all of this effort and if it is a lot of work and you don't see any payout, why do you do it? And for me, it's because writing is a passion. Now, I could literally just write all these books and put them in there, and that in and of itself would still satisfy me, but there's still a part of me, and I think there's a part of every writer who really tries to get self-published or traditionally published, that we want our books to be out there for whatever reason. And in my case, it's because I want to put out clean books for people to read and enjoy, that are really epic stories, but that don't have a lot of bad things in them, because you can't hardly find clean books these days. At least for me personally, that's been my experience. For me personally, for every writer, I think that writing is not enough. Like, publishing books is not enough to sustain you. Now, I have been very blessed to marry a husband who was okay with me pursuing my dream, and so he goes out and he works and I stay at home, and I'm able to be a full-time writer because of that. So, but even then, it's still very tight, and even then, the finances are still very tough. And I know a lot of writers, some of them are full-time authors, some of them work their own jobs and have to sustain themselves, and basically they have to work a regular job and then come home and do all their writing. And that's also, as we're trying to explain here, writing is actually a job. So along with publishing my books, which I'll get into, I do freelancing work to try to earn as much money as I can. I go to sites like iWriter.com. Personally, I've completed 32 articles. I've only had 3 rejections, so that's very good. Since I started this back in the summer, I've earned about $350 on here, and this is the best freelancing site I've ever found. So not enough to pay the bills and provide food for yourself and everything else, but this is one way that I earn money. And so basically, these are the articles. People need these articles written, so they tell you what the title is, they tell you the word count. As you can see here, this one's 1,000 words, and you'd earn $13. To me, that actually seems really pretty decent. So a lot of times you basically have to become an expert in these topics and then write the article. And then once you write the article on this particular site, you have to wait for the person to approve you. So now sometimes you'll put all that work in, and then they will reject your article, and you're kind of at the loss there. The other one is Fiverr. Now, this is actually currently what I've gotten a lot of income from lately, and this is what's really been helping me earn some money. The problem with this versus iWriter is that on this one, you have to wait for the clients to contact you, versus on iWriter, I can pick the articles myself, and it's all I can contact them. So as a writer, once you get your book done, if you're self-publishing, you have to do everything yourself. So the writing process, then you have to get it edited, you have to get it formatted, you have to put it on the publishing platforms yourself, you have to make the cover yourself. A lot of writers, some writers will pay editors to do it for them. Usually editors, like literally $1 per page is so cheap. So most editors will pay per word, or like 5 cents to 12 cents per word, I think is what the average is, or $5 per page. Now, when you're talking about a 200 to 300 page book, that gets to be very expensive. And as we've mentioned, writers don't earn a lot of money. So that creates a problem. And then you're looking at a book cover. If you can't make your own, which making book covers is so hard, most book covers is $100 to $150, $150 if you want the print version of it. And that's, the low end of how much book covers cost. So you have to do all of this yourself. So once the book is actually written, that's just your first draft. Usually you'll go through and edit it multiple times. God really blessed me with allowing my books Hunter and Shifter from the Valiant series to get accepted by a traditional publisher, which I'll launch into kind of how that works a little bit in a minute. But I also, on top of that, while I'm waiting for those books, like the third book in that series to go through, I'm self-publishing, because honestly, you have to, like, it as a writer, it's so hard to make money, so you might as well do both. And I have a lot of stories. So now I am a terrible editor. I mean, I'm not terrible, and I can edit other people's work, but when it comes to my own stories, there's a lot of stuff that I miss. So like for the book that I have called The Crystal Heist, it's being published next year. You have to start very early with these things. So on top of all of this outlining and planning I'm doing and all this other stuff that's going on, I'm actually editing. So what I'll do is I'll send it out to people who graciously volunteered to beta read it for me. And as you can see, the red marks here are mistakes. And so I'll go from their version that they had the mistakes listed to my version over here. I'll read the sentence that has the mistake in it, which I've already fixed these actually, and I'll fix the sentence and make it better, and I'll go through what they do. And then like with this one, I'm actually reading through it with my husband because he is a very good editor and my main editor when it comes to my self-publishing, so we'll read it together, and between his eyes and my eyes, and then all the beta readers after I put it through them, typically will catch a lot of the stuff and we'll end up with a better book by the end of it. Marketing is such a hard thing. So basically, this is where a lot of your stuff will come in at. Now, I'll have to include a clip from my phone for this, but what I do typically is on Facebook, they have different reader groups like, you know, fans of fantasy or mystery reader, you know, people who love reading mystery books or suspense books or whatever the genre is. And you'll basically write up a little promotion thing. You'll usually include your book's synopsis, what it's about, and things like that. So I'm going to insert a clip here. But this is kind of how I do it. You copy text and go here. And now I go to my groups. Let's do that one, because this one actually makes it look like a paperback book. So then I post it. But essentially that's how it's done. And I'm constantly trying to join new groups. I'm constantly trying to keep mine where I only go into groups that are very active, because that's not obviously going to help me get sales. So I'm constantly leaving groups and joining groups and posting my stories in here, and I take hours to do it. Recently I've actually started doing Story Origin. With Story Origin, this is actually like a really good site that I've actually found recently, and here you can go to your dashboard basically, and Story Origin does everything for you. You can basically list your reader magnet, which is basically like, if you sign up for my newsletter, you get this book for free, and you give one of your books away for free. That's called a reader magnet because it's like, it attracts people to sign up for your newsletter. Everybody loves free books. That way you can read it on whatever device you want. It gives all of that for my people, anybody who signs up, and this is connected to my newsletter thing, which I use MailChimp for. This also does review copies. Basically, you put up your books, you put your book here, so they basically submit to you, and you can accept reviewers, and you give them a copy of your book for free in exchange for reviews. And now with my main published books, Hunter and Shifter, like that are traditionally published, I do this sparingly because it is traditionally published, and so I got to get permission from my publisher, which I already have. But with some of them, I'm focused on sales more so than anything else. But Dark Magi is self-published, and I can decide everything with that. So basically, the people on this website create promotions in different categories. Like this one, you can see I've already applied to it. That's the sci-fi and fantasy holiday sale. Basically, I've been doing this for hours at a time here lately, the past couple of days, just sitting here kind of going through this. As you can see, when I first started this, I was like way down here on the list. I'll post on Twitter and put a bunch of hashtags with it. You know, I'll post on Instagram with a bunch of hashtags. The problem with Instagram is that you can't post links on there, so it won't actually lead to any buys. Sometimes I'll use your quote. I'll basically type a quote here, like I did this from Dark Magi, and then you share it on here with some hashtags. I can connect this to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and then I'll put the link in the description and hope for the best. So that's basically the side of marketing. And now I'm going to take you on Amazon, where we can see the different rankings and stuff like that. So basically, I go here. I usually do this on my computer, but I'm doing it on my phone right now so you guys can see this. But I go to Author Central, and that has all my information. You go to books. This lists out all my books here, and you can see like what their rankings are and everything. With my traditional publishing, usually I will go to, I have to keep in contact with my editor, with my, Anna is the woman behind everything. She kind of is not really my boss, I guess you would say, but she controls everything, and she's the one contacting everybody. Daphne is my editor. Hannah is the woman who does all the covers and everything, and I'll just get emails from them and I'll respond to that. Whenever it's time for editing, I'll be emailing with Daphne back and forth. She'll edit it, put the book through a round of edits, she'll email me that, and then I'll spend, she'll send it back to me, I'll go through it, edit it. We did that 3 times for Hunter, we did it 3 times for Shifter. This is an ongoing process over the course of months while I'm working and freelancing, as I showed you before, and then while I'm self-publishing and trying to promote all my stories and doing my newsletters every week and doing my, my blog articles. Next year I'm going to be writing 4,000 words a day on top of all of this and trying to self-publish, which means I'm going to be promoting those launches and getting ready for the launch, because for a launch you have to do a lot of work. And then preparing for my next one, you try to do everything that you can to get your name out there, whether it's submitting to podcasts, to interviews online, to beta readers, to reviewers, to everything that you can. Now, as a writer, you also have to face another thing, which is reviews, which means they can be positive, they can be negative. It will be both. You will have a negative review at some point or another. Usually the more reviews you have, the better off they get seen. So what I've been doing is trying to promote them on Facebook a lot more often, and basically just do anything you can to try to get views and everything and try to get people to buy it, and that's where the problem comes in at. And there's very little reward for all of this work that we've done. I've been talking for a long time now, just trying to summarize everything that I do to you guys, and very little reward for it. As you can see, I haven't earned that much money from any of these really. Now, I'm very thankful for what I have, and I'm very thankful for everything. Goodreads is a little bit better, so a lot of this is just because of Amazon and its algorithms and stuff. You will have negative reviews, and when you read that as a writer, it breaks your heart, but you have to deal with it as it comes. I've been doing a lot more lately, so I'm doing a little bit better. So that's the publishing side of things. That's traditionally published and self-publishing. That's editing, that's outlining, that's writing, that's scheduling my newsletter. Basically doing anything and everything that you can do to promote your book. Now, the marketing and promoting is something that's very hard. As I said, I use StoryOrigin, I use Facebook. I've started growing my newsletter a lot more. I've used my blog and basically trying to get people to buy your books. So a lot of times it's just sharing it as much as you can, trying to grow your reader group, trying to grow your newsletter, trying to keep up with your blog, and it's all this work and everything, and it's still something that I'm very passionate about. So I love writing and I love doing it. That's what I wanted this video to do, is to show people that we writers work very hard for what we do, and to educate people, and maybe to encourage you guys that if you do enjoy reading books, to support the authors as much as you can, even if it's just leaving a review. Reviews help us get more views, and it really, anytime you see a review, it kind of just lightens your heart. For me, it just makes me joyful, because it's some little reward in all of this that we do, for all of the effort and all the work that we put in. For those of us like me and the other authors in this video who are very passionate about it, we can't give up. It's a calling, it's something that we want to do, it's something that we have to do because it's a part of who we are, it's part of who I am, and we can't give up on it. We can't give up on our dreams. We have to keep trying, we have to keep going as much as we possibly can. So and even though if we don't get rewards for it, we still have to keep going. And so basically that's what I'm just trying to kind of encourage you guys to, read more books if you want to. If you're kind of a book reader, support the writers as much as you can, leave reviews.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this really helped you to learn and understand and know more about writers and how we work, and that we actually put a lot of work and effort, many hours of writing, of publishing, of marketing, of freelance writing, of planning and outlining, and working together with other writers, and making covers and editing, and there's so much that we do as writers. And I hope that you've learned that writing is a real job, that it takes time, it takes effort, a lot of times it takes money. If you have to hire your own editors or your own cover makers or your own trailer makers like Alan said he did. If you're self-publishing like Ariel does, you have to do everything yourself. If you can't afford it like me, you have to do everything yourself. If you're lucky enough to get traditionally published, there's still a lot of work that you have to do. You have to talk to a lot of different people, and then there's still the marketing to do. It's really hard to get ourselves out there in this day and age, and it's really hard to market our books in this industry. And I hope that we can start to show people and readers that we writers, self-publishers like Ariel, me, Alicia Scarborough, and Alan Stedham, are all very professional. We put our very best work forward, and but as a reader, you know, it will really help us out if you take a chance and if you give our books a chance, basically, and try to buy our books. Just try to look for new writers, try to look for self-published writers who are doing all of this work. And I hope you guys have learned a lot about writing and about the stereotypes about writers that aren't true, that we don't just sit at home on our butts all day, and that we actually put a lot of work and effort into our stories, and that we put and into the work that we do, and that we pour our hearts and our souls into the books, into the world, and into the characters. And I want to thank you so much for watching this to the very end. And if you would share this on whatever social media platform you would like, that would really help to just get the word out and just educate more people about how hard writers work and how hard writing actually is. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you've really enjoyed this.